Hello, wealth builders, and welcome to this Friday's edition of Face Your Finances. And on today's edition of Face Your Finances, we are going to be concluding our series on where do you stand financially. If you watched the previous videos, in the first video, I'll outline 3 different scenarios in terms of where people could possibly stand financially. We looked at a couple that was making 6 figures and was able to meet all of their monthly obligations and save a little bit, but they were not building wealth. Then in the second week, we looked at a couple that made enough money to meet their monthly obligations, but were not able to save. And today we're going to finish up by talking about a single person that does not make enough income to meet their monthly obligations. I wanted to do this series because in watching a lot of things that go on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, there's a lot of advice that goes on out there in terms of how you can build wealth and how you can manage your finances. But some of those strategies don't apply to everyone. So you as an individual have to understand where you are financially before you can even address where you are going. And that's why I decided to include in my workbook an assessment that helps you determine where do you stand financially. And then from there, you can put a plan together in terms of where you are going. So today, with the scenario of the single person that does not have enough income coming in to meet their obligations, what we did is, number one, we first took a look at what their expenses were made up of. And if there was any areas in their expenses where we could make cuts to create some additional cash flow. However, in this particular scenario, they were actually operating pretty lean, meaning all of their paycheck was going to paying bills. There was very little money left for anything else but that. And so we also looked at of those expenses, how much of that was actually debt that needed to be addressed. And so with that, when you have a shortfall like that, and in this particular situation, they were roughly about $400 short every month. And when you see that, that's generally the part of the strategy is raising the income. And you can raise your income in a few different ways. One, either by getting another job that raises your income, or possibly getting a second job to bring some additional income in. Or thirdly, maybe you have a talent or ability of something that you can do on the side, create a side business, a side hustle that can bring in some additional income. What I like to tell my clients too is if they opt to do the second job, that it's a second job with a purpose, meaning that it's temporary. And so you have to be in a mindset of, the reason I have this second job is I have a goal, and that goal is to create some additional cash flow and to pay down some debt. In this scenario, they were able to secure a second job. And with that, we were able to do 3 things. Number one, create additional cash flow so they were able to meet their obligations at the end of the month. Secondly, they were able to pay down some debt, apply some of that money towards debt. And thirdly, they were also able to save a little. Now, one thing about taking on a second job that I like to remind everyone of, it can sometimes feel like a windfall. And that's why I want to remind you that it's a second job with a purpose. And that's where DNA also comes in, because accountability is important. When you get that second job, we want to make sure that you stay focused on paying down your debt so that eventually you can quit that second job, and because you've created the additional cash flow and made an improvement in your financial situation. So I hope these tips have helped you today. If you did not see the previous videos, please go back to my YouTube channel at Debt Not Allowed, or on Facebook at DNA Financial Services. And I'd like for you to stay tuned for additional series that we will be addressing on Face Your Finances on Fridays. And we look forward to serving you in the future. Remember, debt is not in your DNA. Money. I'm looking for committed people. In order to be successful in your financial freedom positioning journey, you have to be committed to the process.